she was just a maid. But when the billionaire lost everything, what she did left the whole world speechless. There was a time when Daniel Roberts was the name everyone knew in New York's elite circles. He had it all: the big-ass mansion, flashy cars, his face all over the media, and a gorgeous wife, Natasha, who sparkled on his arm at every high-end party. But then everything came crashing down. A massive cyber scam wrecked his business. Stocks plummeted. Bank accounts were frozen. And in just a few weeks, Daniel went from millionaire to deep in debt. Before he could even catch his breath, Natasha handed him divorce papers. And as she walked out the door, she tossed one last jab over her shoulder. "I married a king, not a beggar." His so-called friends, the ones he threw wild parties for, poof, gone. That giant mansion now held just two people: Daniel and his young maid, Sophia, who had joined just a few months earlier. She didn't have money, but damn, she had a rich heart. Sophia was 22, grew up in an orphanage, tough as hell, but soft where it mattered. One day, Daniel looked at her and said, "Why are you still here? I can't even pay you anymore." Sophia just smiled and said, "Money's not why I stayed, sir. You need someone now. I'm not going anywhere." Daniel was stunned and low-key ashamed. The man who once had everything now found comfort in someone he'd barely spoken to before. Days turned into weeks. Daniel was still stuck in legal messes, debt, and drowning anxiety. But something was shifting. Every morning, Sophia brought him coffee, dusted off his books, and sat with him in the yard during sunset. No judgment, no demands, just quiet, steady presence. Slowly, Daniel began to feel peace again. One day, he was sitting on the floor, completely wrecked. Sophia gently lifted his chin and said, "You're not broken, Dan. You're just being stripped of what never mattered, so you can find what does." That day, for the first time, Daniel allowed himself to cry. And maybe that was the beginning of something new. One afternoon, without telling him, Sophia went to his office and started calling old clients. "Sir, you trusted Daniel once. Just give him one more shot. He hasn't lost his wisdom, only his hope." A few days later, Daniel got a call for a meeting. And just like that, a new journey began. Daniel launched a consulting firm. Slowly but surely, he started rebuilding. A year later, the mansion was shining again. Cars back in the driveway. But this time, the woman who left didn't return. Only real joy did. One evening, sitting in the same yard, Daniel held Sophia's hand and said, "You didn't just save my house. You saved my soul." She smiled, the same soft smile, now laced with quiet confidence. At a small ceremony, Daniel held her hand in front of everyone and said, "The world left me when I had nothing. But she gave me everything when I had nothing to offer." And right there, he asked her, "Will you stay? Not as a maid, but as the woman who rebuilt my world." When she said yes, the applause was nothing compared to the tears in everyone's eyes. After the wedding, Daniel and Sophia began a new life in the same house. But now, it wasn't just made of bricks and walls. It held memories and meaning. For Sophia, this was a whole new world. High society, media flashes, attention she'd never dreamed of. But Daniel knew she was his real fortune, the one who stayed when the world left. But it wasn't all smooth. Just days into the marriage, whispers started among New York's upper class. A maid? Seriously? Was she just after his money? Cinderella wannabe? At a business party, one of Daniel's old partners walked up to Sophia and said with a smirk, "So, how's it feel living a life you didn't earn?" Sophia's face faltered for a second, but before she could respond, Daniel stepped in, took her hand, and said loud enough for the whole room, "She earned every piece of this life, not with money, but with a heart 10 times richer than any of us. Silence. But Sophia made up her mind. She wouldn't just be Mrs. Roberts. She was going to make her own name. She went back to college, studied business management, and joined Daniel's new nonprofit initiative as a partner. They named it the Phoenix Trust, helping bankrupt business owners rise from the ashes. 3 years later, Daniel and Sophia visited the orphanage where she grew up. In one quiet corner, a little 7-year-old girl was lost in a pile of books. Sophia bent down and asked, "Do you like reading?" The girl nodded. "I like stories where poor girls don't stay poor forever." Tears welled up in Sophia's eyes. Daniel ruffled the girl's hair and asked, "What's your name?" "Hope," she said. A few weeks later, Hope became part of their family. Now, in that big house, there were 3 souls under one roof. A man who found himself after losing it all. A woman who rebuilt everything with her love. And a little girl whose eyes now sparkled with stories of second chances. The one everyone abandons may break, but the one someone chooses to hold can learn to fly again. And sometimes, the people the world understands the least are the ones who make our world the most beautiful.